Hello everybody and welcome to Nathan on Shuffle and to my latest episode of New Album Spotlight, the show where I put the spotlight on a new album in progressive rock that I want to recommend to you guys that I think is worth your attention. Sometimes more obscure artists that I believe deserve to be bigger names in the prog scene, and I want to bring attention to them. And it's my way to just talk about the music that's been touching me, that's been important to me over the past few weeks as I've been able to listen to some of these great albums. Today is a great one from Lars Fredrik Frøislie, and the album is called Gamle Mester. Hopefully I'm getting that right. There's going to be a lot of pronunciation stuff in this episode that I hope you'll forgive me for, those who are more native speakers. But I absolutely adore this record. Wobbler is one of my favorite modern symphonic prog bands. I think they're one of the leaders of the genre of this kind of Scandinavian style Norwegian prog stuff that's going on in Norway. It's fantastic. I absolutely adore their kind of classic sound that harkens back to like classic era Yes and Gentle Giant and Genesis, but mixed in this kind of folky stew. I feel like Engelgard kind of got this ball running in the 90s, and Wobbler has taken it and ran with it and have had quite a career at this point. Can't wait for their next release, but as kind of a palate cleanser, as kind of a little bit of a teaser before we get to the big meal, hopefully on the horizon, we get this incredible little album from the keyboard virtuoso Lars Fredrik Frøislie, a long-standing Wobbler member. And this is his second solo release. He released the album Fire Fortelinger in 2023, and it was a fantastic release focused on kind of these 4 musical vignettes in his native language, which was really fun, and exploring a lot of the similar soundscapes you'd expect from Wobbler. And we get a similar project at this point in time, which I think improves upon that previous album in pretty much every way. So I'm really excited to dive into it. Like I said, I don't really understand the lyrics at all, so I don't really know the lyrical content, what the stories are talking about. I do know the translations of the titles, so that can kind of give me an idea of some of the stuff on board. And I like how he's such a storyteller and telling these kind of interesting tales that are kind of based in these like old folklore tales and these old myths and legends. And it makes for a very fantastical style, which I think works well with this Scandinavian prog background. So it all really fits together like a glove, and I just really appreciate Lars and his work here on the album. And he has a whole host of like classic vintage instrumentation through his keyboard sounds. He does the vocals and the drums, as well as, you know, all kinds of keyboards, Hammond, Mellotron, Mini Moog. There's harpsichord, all kinds of different vintage sounds that make it sound straight from the 70s. He's also joined by Nikolai Hangsli on bass, Rickenbacker, and Ketil Vestrom Einarsson on flute and recorder, who's played with White Willow and Jaga Jazzist and different bands as well. So gives that very folky vibe in a lot of places where those flutes are very prominent and very interesting. So it's really fun music, and I love how it builds this kind of landscape as you go throughout the piece. There's different moments of light and shade to kind of explore all the story that's involved, moments where things kind of sink back in the mix and you get this kind of lighter section focused on this kind of cool keyboard riff. And then it gets bright and heavier and more funky at certain points as well as we get to more intense parts of the storyline. So a really fun way to tell stories. I'll admit that probably the one weak link of this album is Lars' vocals, which aren't terrible. They're perfectly serviceable and fine, but I feel like they don't really stand out in any sort of way. They kind of are more in the background and become part of this pastiche of the record and are overshadowed, I feel like, by the big keyboard instrumentation, which kind of makes sense for an album that's very much a focus for a keyboard player, his solo record. So it's fair that that's going to take center stage. But as a person who really appreciates really beautiful, great vocal qualities, this doesn't really have a lot of that on board. It's more in the background, more kind of subdued, and of course in a language that I don't understand anyways. But it doesn't detract from all of the excellent stuff that's on the table here throughout the record. It starts with Demring, which means dawn, And this is a fantastic opening track, just a burst of proggy energy right off the bat with those upbeat vintage keyboard sounds and pumping bass lines. A flute enters the fray with that real Scandinavian prog sound. It ramps up as it goes and gets the listener excited for what's coming up ahead. And it even slows down towards the end with a more wistful feel and this beautiful keyboard playing with plenty of tender atmosphere, which I think is perfect because it showcases kind of the two sides of this record, the more fast and furious and fun side and the more plaintive and more pastoral side as well. And then we get into the second track. I won't even try to pronounce the name here, but it means The Hunt for the Caledonian Boar, which is inspired by a Rubens painting and an ancient Greek myth. This is a great track to explore as well because it showcases a lot of that wobbler energy, that cool proggy energy at the beginning with a very prominent harpsichord riff, has this almost otherworldly kind of spacey vibe with these alien sounding chiming keyboard noises. Love that balance of light and shade that I've been mentioning with moments of high energy and rocking sounds with some more folk tinged slower moments where the analog keys are very expressive and beautiful in their showcase. I love when we get into this kind of funkier Wobbler-esque groove. Some of that is some of my favorite stuff on the record and on Wobbler's records in general, when they get into this really fun groove that has a bit of funk flavor to it, but doesn't sacrifice all of the proggy sounds around it. Just fantastic and really fun to get to those sections. And I just really love all the dynamics on this track. It's a very satisfying journey. I believe it's like close to 10 minutes in length or somewhere around that, and it gives you a lot of room to explore and to have fun along the way. The title track is at number 3, and this is more of an instrumental piece with a bit of a choral arrangement as well, and it has one of the most addictive repeating melodic riffs on the record. I can hear it playing in my head right now, this and it just plays over and over, and it's just a wonderful sound, much better sound than my voice. And it has moments where it kind of quiets down and lets this kind of cool keyboard solo take center stage once again, backed by some harpsichord and a sick bass groove, before it ramps back up into that like repeating melodic sound that's just glorious and brings those kind of choir vocals and this repeating sound in a quicker pace. Like, I love how he has this motif running through and then he's able to like make it more exciting and intensify it by quickening up the pace of it towards that last minute of the piece. Then we've got the Raft of Medusa here at number 4, another great showcase for Lars Fredrik Frøislie and some of his really expansive work here. Another longer form piece, very intense from the start with big mellotron and intensive drumming, big keyboard washes. Love the groove it hits with a bit of a funk sauce before the vocals enter into the fray. Some sprightly soaring keys, but also very dark and foreboding. I believe the theme of this track comes from harrowing fate of this kind of French frigate called Medusa. Over 13 days, only 15 people survived, enduring starvation, dehydration, and ultimately cannibalism. A grim tale based on a painting once again. I believe that's kind of the unifying theme of the record, is that it's based on these different expressive paintings, delving into the stories behind them. And we get some cool dark foreboding organ before it gains more steam, and we get some powerful drum work, and we return to a familiar theme as the track comes full circle, and it's just another great showcase for everything Lars is about. And then we reach kind of the centerpiece of the album, one of the big crescendos and one of the most exciting pieces of the record, the Three Graces, named after the daughters of Zeus, spanning 12 minutes. This is the biggest song on the record, and I love the beautiful harpsichord and chiming keys that open this piece before the power of the drums and mellotron kick in. Has a similar structure, some upbeat moments, some laid-back sections, allowing these vintage instruments to really shine. But the last 4 minutes of the track in particular are just instrumental powerhouse, very delightful to listen to, quickening pace, furious flute work, big keys, delightful grooves with big killer bass playing parts. There's just this delightful whimsy. It adds an upbeat and kind of cheerful feel as the excitement builds. And it's just a really fun track and a wonderful instrumental section that really livens up my spirits anytime I hear it. It's a fantastic piece of work. And then we close with a short 3-minute cool down called Scummering or Dusk. A lot of cool plaintive keys and interesting atmosphere, building to kind of a swelling, foreboding sound before it slowly fades off into the distance. So a great little interstitial track. Really, there's kind of four, once again, like main tracks, and then instrumental intro and outro to kind of capture your ears and get you into and out of the soundscape for the record. And I think it works really well. It's structured similarly to his previous record. And why mess with a format that works for you, right? And just fantastic playing across the board. He's a master at all these vintage keys and making them sound really sprightly and modern and fun to listen to. Love the folk tinges and, really embracing his heritage and his country and singing in his native language and doing these folklore tales that seem very tied to where he's from. It's just a beautiful album that I can heartily recommend. I think it's fantastic and a great appetizer to get you excited for any hopeful upcoming Wobbler record that I hope is on the horizon at some point in the near future. So once again, the stamp of approval, very strong. If you like this style prog, it's going to be up your alley. I'm very sure of that. And I hope you guys will go check this one out. It comes out May 9th, and it's going to be a fantastic release. Can't wait to hear your thoughts about it. Let me know in the comments if you've heard it, or if you have some anticipation and are excited for it, let me know. Would be fascinating to know your thoughts on this one. So thank you guys so much for joining me, and as always, enjoy the music, everybody. Bye!